Hi, I'm Greg Wise, actor, writer, filmmaker. So, why am I here discussing universal basic income? Am I just another rent-an actor banging on about something they know little to nothing about? Nearly. Back in 2015, I found myself on national television saying that I would stop paying tax. I was on a morning programme there to publicise a play I was in. But I found myself incensed at the news of the discovery of bank accounts at HSBC in Luxembourg, where 7,000 UK clients had hidden £21.7 billion to evade tax. And literally none of them had been brought before the courts. So if they're not going to pay their tax, then I'm not going to pay my tax. I then realised that I was just another bloody actor banging on about stuff they didn't know about. So I started doing some research, which ended up with me making a film for Channel 4 called How the Rich Avoid Tax, where I went undercover in a couple of stings to highlight just how the system can be corrupted. I was able to embark on this documentary project because of an accident of birth. I happened to have been born to certain parents in a certain place at a certain time. I was given a certain education and followed a certain profession that allowed me at this certain time to embark on this certain documentary. We are all the results of an accident. My accident allowed me to take a large chunk of time and explore tax avoidance, as I'm a freelance actor and had made enough money to take some time out of my usual profession to explore how, in my mind, some people were being let off stealing from the public purse. And this public purse has been very well used over these last months. So now, probably more than ever before, we are able to look at basic, universal basic income as a real possibility. It has actually been running in an enormous way over this pandemic only by a pseudonym, furlough. Now, I'm not going to launch into economics or sociology. I am neither economist nor a sociologist. I'm just a fellow human being. Where I am today, purely down to a series of accidents, happen chance, leading me, at least for now, out of the precariat. The precariat, this recently coined word for people whose employment and income are insecure. The erstwhile proletariat, the working class of our capitalist society, combining with the word precarious. The precariat describing the reality of low-wage workers in our modern global economy. I am only 2 generations removed from this. Maternal grandparents, pre-war emigres, becoming enemy aliens and only just escaping internment. And the other side of my family, railway workers and miners, living in what my father called the grip of poverty. And I could have lost the position my parents managed to gain and return to the precariat in my chosen profession. Half of British Equity, the Actors' Union, makes less than £5,000 a year. 1 in 50, that's 2%, making more than £20,000 a year. But I was lucky. So, should accidents of birth and luck be the only means not to live a precarious life? A society is judged by how it deals with its least fortunate members, At least that's how it should be. So how are we faring? Not terribly well. Even pre-pandemic, we were seeing a rise in childhood hunger, the fast disappearing secure band of society, the huge gap between most of us and the few super rich, a sample of whom drove me to make my documentary in the first place. And we're still cemented into some type of Victorian thinking of the ethics of the workhouse, the deserving poor, the undeserving poor. My wife does some work with the Food Foundation and looked at childhood hunger in a documentary film put together by the footballer Marcus Rashford. She talked about it on BBC Radio and was met on national radio with the argument put forward by the presenter that childhood hunger was a result of parents' fecklessness. This Victorian thinking is so deeply ingrained in our national conversation, this ill thought out dog whistle. We must be better than this. Maybe now, with the furlough scheme having been seen as being essential, we can look again at universal basic income through a different lens, taking whatever toxic Victorian view that we've carried with us and see money given out from the state in a healthier way. The UK government has borrowed hundreds of billions of pounds to cover COVID costs. Some sources put figures at £7,000 per household. Unprecedented times for sure, but the money was found. And we've used a non-means-tested governmental gift for years now in the shape of the winter fuel payment for pensioners. Life-saving for some, unnoticed by others. But everyone gets it. This is the UBI model. So what do we get for our raiding of the public purse? Finland ran a trial recently. I'm sure you are all aware of it. Whatever the ups and downs of it, the following was clear. People were more satisfied with their lives and experienced less mental strain, depression, sadness, and loneliness. They also had a more positive perception of their cognitive abilities, their memory, learning, ability to concentrate. Their financial situation was manageable, and they felt protected financially. The basic income recipients trusted other people and the institutions in society and were more confident in their own future and their ability to influence it. It made people happier. Isn't that what we all want? So savings on the health service. Strain of poverty manifests in mental and physical health issues. Saving on social work, on policing costs, on court costs, incarceration. I'm no economist, but I saw the product of the closures of industries in the northeast of England, where I'm from. Steel production, coal mining. The apparent savings from cheaper imports, a pittance when weighed up against the financial cost to the state of unemployment, poverty, mental health issues, breakdown of families, hopelessness, lack of care of self, lack of care of wider society, as it's clear that the society does not care for you. You have no worth. An early pandemic conversation I had with my wife was about worth. What is the worth of a pint of milk? The worth of a dress? The worth of a worker? We found ourselves in a situation where dairy farmer friends of ours were not making a profit supplying a supermarket with milk, that Oddly, a £5 dress meant we had sweatshops in Leicester, and the person delivering that dress you bought online was paid pennies. We have to re-evaluate worth. After all, that is the baseline for our relationship with ourselves, with our friends, the wider community. Do we feel valued? When I have to make decisions in my life, do I accept this job and have to go and live in another country for 3 or 4 months? Do I turn down the work and spend that time with my family? Should I take this job over another one offered? The work I do means big decisions have to be made reasonably often and reasonably swiftly. I try and always look at it from the Bentham greatest happiness principle. I love this. Jeremy Bentham, back in the 18th century, argued that the moral quality of action should be judged by its consequences on human happiness, and claimed that we should aim at the greatest happiness for the greatest number. That governments should enact legislation, create laws and policies to maximize happiness. I am fortunate, through the accidents and luck of my past, to be in a position where I can think about decisions I make leading to the greatest happiness for the greatest number. The members of the precariat do not have that opportunity. So if the health of a society is measured by how it treats its most vulnerable, do we not have a moral obligation to level up? This, of course, makes me laugh. The mantra of the government we now find leading us, levelling up. What does it mean? Even they don't seem to know. But they have the essential tool at their disposal already, and have even tinkered with this tool during the recent lockdowns in the shape of furlough. So let's give it a go. Let's try a universal basic income and allow everyone the ability to, at least in a small way, feel they have some power to navigate, some sense of protection, an availability to think beyond just struggling to the end of each month, and try and access that principal human right, happiness. This is no longer a right versus left argument. The Finnish government that instigated the recent trial is centre-right. Our government that has managed to find such an enormous amount of furlough money is very much right. This is not a lefty construct anymore. In an odd way, I benefit already from the tenets of UBI, having a monetary cushion to allow me to pursue things I love that will enrich me, make me happy, make others happy. As a self-employed actor, sometimes I'm able to do a piece of work that I don't necessarily want to do because the money earned from it will then allow me not to work and be able to be purely a father, a husband, a carer for an aged relative, do a piece of theatre that generally costs me to do as the wage is so small, try and write another book, make another documentary, embark on a speculative screenplay, all these positive things on offer, simply because I have a financial buffer. My wife and I spent about 7 years, on and off, trying to put together the story for a film called Last Christmas. We were not paid for the work, but were able to do it as we had money behind us. The film was made when we were paid, and it took over $120 million on its release. And I hope that by our efforts, we were able to make the people who watched it happier. At the end of the film, our heroine, Kate, says this: "We are lucky to be able to help each other in little ways and in big ways. And the reason we're lucky is because helping each other is in fact what makes us happy. That's all." Amen to that. Thank you for listening.